Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, in today's video, I'm going to talk about three cases. I'm going to give some updates. Three cases that we've been covering. First of all, I just want to say that if you're a person who doesn't like the waffle, there's going to be some waffle as well. Later, when I finish this live stream, I will split it into three smaller videos with the individual cases. So, if you're a person who just prefers a short video and doesn't like the waffle that often comes with it on my channel, then you're probably better off waiting for those. Anyway, also, I'll give you the order in which I'm going to talk about these cases. So the first case I'm going to give you an update on, just so you know whether, to go make a cup of tea, because you may only be interested in one particular case and not in the others. So, we all have what we're interested in for whatever reason. So where is my photo? Oh, so I failed in the first instance. I can't find the photo of John George. Anyway, that's who I'm going to talk about first of all, is John George. And this is, John George is Irish, but the actual crime took place here in Spain, not that far away from where I am, actually. So we're going to talk about John George first of all, some developments in his case, which is, Spain. If you think the sort of wheels of justice go slowly in your country, Spain is, just notorious for it. But so we have had a development. So we're going to talk about that, about John George. We're then going to talk about Anna Kepner. I do have a photo to hand here. This is Anna, teenage girl who was murdered while she was on a cruise with her family, probably by her stepbrother. And there's been some developments there in that case. We're going to talk about that next. So first John George, then Anna Kepner. And then how could we not, because after the welcome guilty verdicts yesterday for Preston Davey's horrible dads, we're going to talk a little bit about that case. Tonight is the vigil for Preston. It's happy birthday, Preston. Today is Preston's birthday, his 4th birthday. But sadly, it's a heavenly birthday because Preston is not here to celebrate his 4th birthday as children should be able to, is he? So we're going to talk about that then at the end. So just to give you an idea of what sorry, I just got to do something here. Just to give you an idea of, how this is going to pan out. So first and foremost, of course, thank you. Thank you, especially for your caring about Preston. A lot of you have been interested in Preston's case. And as I say, we did get the welcome verdict in the end of guilty. But of course, doesn't bring Preston back. But thank you for caring about him. Also, thank you to all of you that have subscribed. Please leave your DNA on that subscribe button and the like button and share. If it's a Preston Davey video, please share, because YouTube, every single video, they limit the and so they don't share it, basically. So what that means is if YouTube limit the ads on a video, it's not only that it means the video doesn't get monetized, which to be honest I don't care about, but it won't get shared, it won't get pushed into the algorithm because YouTube's not making any money on it, because they're not putting any ads on it, because it's got unpalatable content. And this is so with the Preston Davey videos especially, please share, because we want everyone to know Preston's story. I've been sort of humming and hawing about what I'm going to talk to you about later, about his story. But whether to do it or not. But you can't brush things under the carpet as if they haven't happened. I do feel that's what's happened a bit with Preston's case, as far as the mainstream media is concerned. I mean, they were reporting on it a lot yesterday, and they probably will be today. But really, it has been virtually ignored, isn't it? I do feel that if the dads were immigrants or whatever, there would have been much more attention, because that's much more fashionable at the moment to bash immigrants. So they find it hard to bash professional people like Jamie Varley and John GF, and also because they're gay, they're probably wary of being homophobic. But what, you can't call someone a twonk just because they're gay. So they're not a twonk because they're gay, they're a twonk because they're a twonk. Anyway, so I'm not shying away from it. I'm going to talk about it. Some people may not agree with it, but that's what I'm going to do. But first of all, sorry, I got sidetracked already. So please, if it's the Preston Davey videos, especially share them, please. Thank you for those who like the videos. That's very useful. Thank you. And then, of course, a special thank you to my members, to those of you who've joined the channel. We do an exclusive members live every fortnight. You get to use the members emojis. There's occasional sort of photos, more personal photos from me, extra videos, etc. Thank you to those who've bought a Ko-fi. That's very kind. Thank you. And don't forget, my merchandise page is on my Ko-fi page. Thank you to those who've ordered merchandise. Sometime, some of you have ordered them on there, or some of you have sent me emails. You can order the merchandise however you want. You can personalize whatever it is. This is the I'm not in the mood for twonks today mug. You can get in all different colors, but you can put any message on there. You just tell me what you want. It can be with a photo, without a photo. You just tell me what you want and I'll do it for you. What else? So yeah, thank you for emails. And thank you for your comments. So I've had a lot of comments, particularly over the Preston Davey case. I've tried to respond to all of them. I comment. Some of them, I don't agree with them. I may not respond to them. I don't have deleted comments. I think the only thing I delete a comment is if someone was really offensive, but to be honest, YouTube normally takes care of that. I've had to dig a few comments out of hidden comments. I don't like other YouTube channels being mentioned because that can cause problems. I don't mind you mentioning the other channel just by name. What else do I need to say? So yeah, thank you to all of you who've left comments. Most of you, a really overwhelming amount of your comments have been supportive. How many people that cared about little baby Preston. Just sad that his adoptive dads didn't give a shit about him, isn't it? But anyway, we'll get on to that. Yes, so hello, you lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello to Replay Crew. Thank you. And I think Lily is in the chat. Hi, Lily. Hope you're well. And so a little bit of waffle to start with. So I had an unwelcome visitor this morning in my bedroom. So I woke up this morning. I mean, this is totally random and off the point of true crime. So sorry, but it happened. And I want to share it with you because I thought it was quite funny. So literally, when you sort of just coming round, you open your eyes. And I look down and I've got a bloody grasshopper on my shoulder. A grasshopper. Of all things, just lying on my shoulder, chilling. Like enjoying the fan because I've got the fan blowing right at me. Oh my God. Well, I don't know if it's a grasshopper or a cricket. I don't know really what the difference is. I think grasshoppers maybe are bigger. It wasn't massive, but it was big enough. I mean, it's maybe a couple of inches long. Just sat there on my shoulder, chilling, enjoying, coming round. I couldn't believe it. So, of course, as I sat up and went, ugh, like that, it jumped up in the air and it started jumping around the bedroom. And I knew it was there last. I thought I'd got it last night. It was on my lamp last night, and shooed it out. I thought I'd shooed it out the window, but obviously, either unless it had a friend in there, and it's a different grasshopper. I obviously didn't manage to get it out the window, or there was another one in there. So, I just forgot about it then. I just thought, you do get critters, of course, in Spain. You get insects and things. And I don't mind grass. The only insects I cannot bear are cockroaches. Oh, my God, if I would have woken up with a cockroach on my shoulder, you would have heard my scream from wherever you are. Even if you're in Australia, you would have heard it. But it's quite cute, actually, the grasshopper. But it's just the way it was just chilling there on my shoulder. It was just funny. Anyway, so big kerfuffle. The dogs are going mad, because they're like, what's that thing? So it's jumping around the bedroom, hopping around the bedroom. So I put the dogs in their cages to get them out of the way, and opened the window and got some and shoot it. And I definitely saw it go out this time. It was on the balustrade, on the balcony. And it just sat there and hopped off the balcony. So it's gone on its merry way, on its travels, after having a comfortable 2 nights in my bedroom with the fan on. Yeah, funny little thing. But anyway, yeah, that was just something that I thought might make you laugh. Because sometimes we need to laugh when we're dealing with true crime. God, I mean, it is hard on the soul sometimes, isn't it, true crime? So sometimes it's one of those, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry sort of times. Well, we've cried a lot over Preston, haven't we, during this trial? And Preston deserves every one of our tears, deserves all our tears, all our caring. But anyway, we're going to come on to talking about Preston. So we're going to start off. I'm going to take my banner off now. We're going to start off talking about John George. And I need to find, first thing I need to do is find a photo. I'll take this banner off. Yeah, what have I done with John George's photo? I might have had to take it. I've normally got it here in the sort of photos, but I might have had to take it off to fit another photo on there for something else possible, because you're only allowed to have so many. So I'm going to load it up again. Just let me take one off. So I have to take one off to put another one on, because I'm probably at my limit. So John George. I know a lot of you have followed this case with me since it began. John George is I think he was 37 year old man from Northern Ireland. Yeah, I've got his photo. I think John George is, he's got one of the best smiles that I've ever seen. Every photo you see of him, he's smiling. He's got a very, very nice smile. But anyway. So what happened with John George? Well, John, he is a bit of a rogue, definitely. He lost his way in life at some point. His parents say it's when he was sent to juvenile detention for, I can't think what his original crime was. I think it was fighting or whatever. So he's not an angel, and his family would be the first people to admit he's not an angel. He then got addicted to prescription drugs, apparently, while he was in prison. And that was when he was very young, and we're going to talk later about Preston Davey's mom. And she was very young when she married, but her crime was much more heinous than the crime John George committed. Anyway, got involved in drugs, as many people do. I mean, if you think it could never happen to your son or your daughter, it can, and sometimes it's a big surprise because you can't believe that your child, they're all babies like Preston at one point, aren't they? You don't think that they'll grow up to either be murderers like Jamie Varley, or to be, let's say, the battle, if you like Johnny got involved with drug running and things like that. So yeah, we're not saying angel, but he still did not deserve what happened to him as a father of two boys. They've lost their father. So he came a couple of years ago. He came out ostensibly for a few days holiday, and he was supposed to be on a plane going home. And he never got on that plane, but there is some conjecture. Did he even book that flight? Or did somebody else book that flight to make it look like he was still alive? It's thought that he quite possibly might have already been deceased by then. So, that's what we're going to find out in the court case when it finally comes up. So his family will never forget Billy George's dad and his tearful pleas on camera, please give me my son back, knowing that his son was dead, pleading for his body to be returned. And his family came over here. So this was not last Christmas, it was the Christmas before. They spent all Christmas and New Year searching for their son's body, their loved one's body, in the wrong place because they'd been given all the wrong information deliberately. They even brought a search team over from Northern Ireland, and they were looking in the wrong place. Everybody was looking in the wrong place. They were taunted, really. I think just as bad that John George was murdered, but then the family were literally taunted. That's completely unnecessary, isn't it? Whatever the reasons behind why John George was murdered, I don't know. We don't know because we haven't had the court case yet. But to taunt a family like that, to leave them in a foreign country searching for their son's body, with all the problems that entails, like the language barrier, etc. Really horrible thing to do. And then reveling in it. So the thing is, there were two suspects in this case. So there is Johnny Smith and Michael Malley. They were the two main suspects. Michael Malley gave himself up to the police, and in fact it was him who said where John's body was. And John had been brutally murdered. He'd been shot in the face, he'd been stabbed in the leg, he'd been stripped or half stripped and just dumped in a lemon grove in Rocales in Spain. So it's really brutal. Anyway, Michael Malley, he did give himself up, went to the police, told them where the body was, and he was given bail. So Michael Malley, one of the suspects, he was out on bail. The other suspect, Johnny Smith, he did a runner. He ran off, first of all, to Gibraltar, where he married his girlfriend, who I think was 19 at the time, 19 or 20, Madison Allen, who's an OnlyFans model. So he went off and married her in Gibraltar. Then they went on the run and they ended up being arrested. To cut a long story short, they were arrested in Portugal, or he was anyway, and he was extradited to Spain. He was put in prison. He was refused bail because obviously he was a flight risk, or because he'd already run off once, gone on the run once. So he was in prison in Alicante. But because he'd had the foresight to marry his OnlyFans model wife, Madison, they were getting conjugal visits, because in Spain you get conjugal visits. So that's probably why he married her. Anyway, in the meantime, other things have happened. So while the family, John George's family, patiently waiting for the court case, because as I say, the wheels of justice, they turn slowly in Spain, so there'll be justice. There will definitely be justice, but when, I don't know. we still do not have a date for the trial. Hello, inquiring minds. Hi, thank you for watching. So we still don't have a date for the trial. Anyway, then in the meantime, one of the suspects, Michael Malley, who's a Czechoslovakian national, he was murdered himself, shot in the head several times at a beach location up in Punta Prima near Torrevieja in Spain. And that was supposedly someone has been arrested, a man from Manchester, a hitman who did that. Now, was Michael Malley disposed of so he could be the fall guy for the murder of John George? Don't know. Then the next thing that happened was Madison Smith, the now wife of Johnny Smith, she was arrested for possession of a huge amount of drugs and weapons, and she was released on bail. Why was she released on bail? I think it was €40. Since then, she has also probably making a video for TikTok, because she's all over social media, crashed into a car and one man was killed. One man was killed in an accident. So that's like manslaughter, I suppose. She was driving a BMW or something, probably videoing herself. I don't know what she was doing. But anyway, she wasn't paying attention. She was perhaps high as a kite. I don't know. But a man died. So the bodies are stacking up. You've got John George, the original person who was murdered. You've got Michael Malley, one of the suspects, who himself now has been murdered. You've got the man that Madison Allen killed in the car accident. 3 bodies. Then another guy, somewhere in the middle of all this, Dan McMeekin, a guy who knew all the people involved. He was stabbed in the neck outside a bar in La Zenia, in Orihuela Costa. Had to be rushed to hospital, barely escaped with his life. So this is horrible, isn't it? All the violence. Then Madison, Johnny Smith's wife now, the OnlyFans model, a woman who, makes her living on her looks, very attractive woman, girl. I think of her as a girl, but she's not. She is a woman. She's 21 now, I think, or maybe 22. I'm not sure. She was slashed, had her face slashed and disfigured. I don't know how serious it is, but she had a scar right across her, a bit like the Joker type thing. So it's just been one thing after another. And in the meantime, John George's family are sitting back in the background thinking, when's justice going to come for our brother, our son? And they've been trolled a lot. It's been a very horrible case, to be honest. All the murder cases, of course, they're horrible, but I find it horrible that the attacking of John George's family, people accusing them of all sorts. Well, I don't know them. Maybe they're not, whiter than white. Who is whiter than white? Is there any of us that could sit there and say, oh, no, I've never done anything wrong in my life? You might not have murdered someone, but come on. People, or you or your family, people get involved in things, and as I say, I think anyone who says, oh, that could never happen with my son, or that could never happen with my daughter, or, you just know what might happen in life. So you've got to be careful to judge too harshly. Especially when someone, they haven't murdered anybody, for God's sake. So, I don't get all this trolling of victims' families, etc. I just don't understand it. Even if you thought it, why say it when they're going through enough? What does that make you? You have to think, what sort of person does that make you? If you're a person that throws all this hatred out, at families of people who have lost loved ones, whether their loved ones were saints or angels or not. What sort of person does it mean you are? Anyway, so that was the situation. So so one suspect is dead. So there's Johnny Smith is the only suspect remaining. He is back in prison. He was released on bail over Christmas, but he broke the terms of his bail, which I presume are not having any weapons and things like that. He had weapons. Anyway, he's back in prison. And the news, if you like, the reason that I'm on here talking about this case today, the development, is that there's been a breakthrough, a DNA breakthrough in this case. So it just shows you how long DNA can take. So the Guardia Civil, the Spanish police, or the Policía Nacional, I'm not sure which one are dealing with it, they had a car that they were examining, and we're going to listen to someone telling us about it in a moment. And they have found DNA, they found blood in the back of the car, or traces that show that they think that John George was put in the back of that car. The Guardia Civil have always said from the beginning they think that John George was killed the night of the fiestas in the apartment in Orihuela Costa. Now, what that means is when we have fiestas here in Spain, any of you watch my channel regularly, you'll know, especially if you were watching at New Year, there's bangers going off, there's fireworks, and anytime there's like bank holiday or special celebration, and it sounds often like somebody's outside with a bloody pump action shotgun or something, and you sit there and you think, oh, it is that fireworks, that hopefully it's fireworks. But you know, I always think, God, one day I'll just sit here and think, oh, it's fireworks, and there'll be somebody out in the street murdering everybody. Because they are so loud. Anyway, so that's what the Guardia or the police have always said. They thought that John George had been murdered in that apartment in Orihuela Costa, and the noise of the fireworks going off had masked the noise, because the neighbours didn't know anything. And the thing is, that area where this apartment was, most of the people that live there in that apartment, in the surrounding area, will probably not be Spanish, because it's an area where a lot of people live from other countries, and also would probably be pensioners, a lot of them. People who've come here to retire. I don't know why they had that place, really. It was a funny place for young people like that to have an apartment. Anyway, I don't know why. So that's where we were. So what I'm going to show you is this video of Alison Morris, who is a journalist for the Belfast. This Belfast is where John George comes from. She is a reporter for she's the crime reporter for I think it's the Belfast Telegraph, I think. Anyway, so we're going to watch. She put a TikTok out explaining the development, and we're going to have a look at that. So this is good news for the family, really, because the thing is, when Michael Malley was murdered, you just felt, that Malley's important for the conviction of Johnny Smith. And, there was, I think, this worry that once Michael Malley had been murdered, how would this affect the case against Johnny Smith? Would he end up not enough evidence to prove he did it? But DNA evidence Can't wriggle out of that one, can you? You know, so DNA evidence, that is, if Michael Mallon did, as a way of, maybe it was a hit, as a way of sort of deflecting the attention off Johnny Smith, and of course meaning that he couldn't testify against Johnny. Now, I need to say that Michael Malley was not an angel either, so it may be that Michael Malley was murdered. Nothing to do with the John George case. Could be something else. He was up to his neck in drugs, the drugs world, etc. So we don't know that the reason for it just seems a coincidence, isn't it? There he is, a prime witness in a murder case, and boom, he ends up being murdered. So we don't know for certain that Michael Malley was murdered because of the John George case, but he was murdered for some reason. He didn't shoot himself in the head a few times. So, yeah. Hi, Daniel. Yeah, happy Tuesday. Thanks for watching. So, there was this consternation when and don't get Michael Malley too, he was a father as well. So I just want to spare a thought for his, for if you don't care about John George, at least care about his boys. Same with Michael Malley, maybe he was a piece of shit, I don't know, but he has a daughter. She's the innocent, she hasn't done anything. So we have to think about them. Okay, so let's have a look at this video. Or a listen. I've got to find the...
Today, family received good news from the Spanish authorities this week that the forensics being carried on a BX5 that had been recovered in Spain. It had no number plates on it, but they were able to trace that car through other means, but it had been undergone forensic examination, and they have been told this week that what they call organic matter, so blood of the dead man, of John George, and therefore they believe that car was used to transport his body. It also said that there was another male DNA profile which had been obtained from that car, which matches what they call the unambiguous DNA profile of the detainee, Michael Malley. So that ties in with that. And then it said swabs taken from the driver's seat and seatbelt matches the unambiguous genetic profile of the detainee, Johnny Smith. And they said this had been obtained during the preparation of our previous report. So Smith fled Spain after the murder of John George. He was arrested in Portugal in March 2025. He was extradited back to Spain, and then he was released last year on a bail bond of €100,000. But since his release, he was constantly coming to the attention of the Spanish police and the Spanish media. And in March of this year, he was caught with a number of weapons after he was stopped by police along with his wife, Madison Allen. He had a 9mm Star pistol in a van he was driving, and during a follow-up search in Morlaett near Benidorm, other weapons were discovered.
It's not the sharpest tack, is it? He got his bond. He was released at Christmas, €100,000 he had to put up, or someone had to put up for him. And he was released. You think he'd just keep a low profile, wouldn't you? You'd be lucky that you were released for Christmas. John George's family didn't get a chance to spend that Christmas with John George, and the Christmas before they'd spent searching for his body all over the Costa Blanca. I just can't believe how people are so thick, really, So Johnny Smith, he could have just kept his head down. But no, he was all over social media with his wife. He was fighting. As Alison just said, he was found with weapons, with drugs. Just even the Spanish judge that put him back in prison said he's just making a mockery of the Spanish justice system. And believe me, the Spanish justice system is lenient towards offenders, I think. Personally, I think they're much too lenient towards offenders. So, he had all those opportunities. And boom, so he's got what he did. He's only got himself to blame for it. He was given every opportunity, to walk free at least until his trial. So yeah, he just deserves everything he gets, really. But sorry, I'm trying to play it again, and it's not playing now. Great.
The pair police cell before being released, pending further investigation. We know that those weapons are also going under being analysed to see if they've been used in any other crimes. Smith then was up for a bail variation. He had the family of John George had appealed the fact he'd been released on bail, but then Johnny Smith himself made a counter application saying he wanted his bail bonds relaxed to allow him to sign on just once a week and for the bond to be reduced to £30,000. However, the judge was shown evidence of social media content uploaded by the couple, who had been very active on various different social media platforms, which appeared to be mocking members of the deceased man's family, including his father, Billy George. The judge called for a short adjournment to review that material, and among the clips was one of Smith boasting that he had been living like a king during his time on remand in Spain. When the judge returned to the court, he said he was returning him to his kingdom, and so he has now been returned back to detention. I believe that the trial is due to start in January next year, January 2027, and the family of John George last night welcomed this breakthrough and said they will continue to campaign for justice for George, with the trial date, as I said, expected to take place in January next year. Hey.
So, there you go. So that's interesting. So she's saying the trial's expected to take place in January next year. So that will have been 3 Christmases that John George's family will have spent without him before the trial even happens. Hi, Admit. Hope you're well. Thank you for watching. So, yeah, that's the latest on this case. Very interesting. I think, just like, I think it's the Spanish justice system, as I say, does work slowly. I think, personally, where's Nightbot come from there? Sorry, I'm just reading the chat there. Admit audacity, get off the stage, stop spamming emojis, warning. Honestly, Nightbot, I haven't seen Nightbot for ages. He's just popped up. This is anyway, that's not me, Admit, putting that up. This is Nightbot. He's a law into himself. It's like, well, it's exactly what it says. It's like an AI mediator, I suppose. But I have no idea why that's popped up. Is it because of the hearts? I don't know. Very strange. I haven't seen a word from Nightbot for ages. But anyway, it's normally David that Nightbot has to go at. Every now and again. Anyway, so back to John George. So that's the situation. DNA found in the car, not only the DNA of John George in the boots, but also the DNA of Johnny Smith on the seatbelt and the steering wheel. So even though Michael Malley has, cannot testify because he's dead because somebody shot him, DNA is difficult to wriggle out. So whether that, and if Johnny Smith is found guilty, he's looking at 15 years. Spanish sentences aren't good. You might think sentences aren't very good in your country, but Spain, they're crap. But they take other 15 years, I think, is the minimum, or is it even the maximum? I don't know. So he's definitely going to get 15 years if he's found guilty. But then they take in other circumstances and things, so it may end up being more than that, of course. Oh, too many hearts, admit. Yeah, you got too much love, too much love. So yeah, I didn't know that. But anyway, Nightbot, I can't believe it just popped up there. I haven't seen him for ages. Anyway, so yeah, that's the update that I wanted to give you about the Johnny Smith case that we've been. Sorry, not well. It is Johnny Smith. He's the killer or alleged killer. The John George case that we've been following right from when it first happened. A long time ago now, coming up to 2 years since this man was brutally murdered, and his family had to go through all that. So, yeah, just sort of let you know about that. So I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to give you an update on another case we've been following, which is Anna Kepner. Anna Kepner. So I'm going to give you a brief sort of background of who Anna Kepner is and what happened to her. Let me just put down some windows. So this girl, young girl, attractive girl, typical teenage girl, often making Instagram videos, selfies, etc. A girl with massive potential in front of her, like everybody of her age. 17 years old, you know, she had plans to join the military. She wanted to be a K9 officer. Everyone described her as a lovely girl. Blah, de, blah, de, blah. You know, they always are lovely, aren't they? Such a loss to the world. It's ironic, isn't it? Because the victims are a big loss, not only to their families, of course, but to all of us, to the world in general. Quite often victims, they're like the people we need in the world, the good people. It's the good people that become victims because predators, they pick on good people, don't they, I think? You know, if somebody's like maybe, I don't know, they pick on people who they know they can pick on. So they could be vulnerable because of their age, like Preston, because he was just a baby, or Nancy Guthrie because she was elderly, or Anna. Anna's a young girl, a young attractive girl. So I think there's a real strong sex motive in this murder. So Anna went on a cruise from Orlando in Florida, a Disney cruise. I think it's the Carnival, the cruise ship was called, with her blended family. So she's on this cruise. This is what always amazes me. She's on a cruise. There's 9 of them. And this girl was still not safe. On a massive cruise ship, thousands of people, and 9 members of her family. And she still wasn't safe. She still got murdered. Unbelievable. You know, where are you safe? Anyway, so it was her dad, her biological dad, his new wife, Shauna, I think her name is. Then there was her stepbrother, Timothy Hudson, her other brother, who I think is biological brother. So how many is that? So that. Then the grandma and granddad were on this cruise. And then I think there were other children on there that it's not really been clarified, or I don't know exactly. So anyway, there was 9 of them. And Anna and her 2 brothers, her stepbrother, Timothy, and her brother were sharing a stateroom together. Now, there's so much discrepancy about Anna's relationship with her stepbrother, Timothy Hudson. Let's put a picture up of him. I want to show you the difference in size between, because he's quite a weedy guy, I would say. He doesn't look like a strong guy. But when you look at him next to Anna, see how tiny she is? See how tiny Anna Kepner is. So he might not be a great big strong guy, he might be a bit of a skinny guy, and that a lot of people say, "Oh, he couldn't possibly have done it because he's not strong enough." Look at the difference in size. Poor Anna, poor Anna. Anyway, there's some discrepancy about how well they got on or didn't get on. You know, the stepmother says, his biological mother says, "Oh yeah, they got on really well. You know, him, her, and the other brother, they were like the three amigos," she described them. And that's why she felt comfortable, them all sharing a stateroom on the cruise ship. In fact, she said that Anna was offered the opportunity to stay with her grandparents instead, and she wanted to stay with the two boys. Now, that's quite likely because Anna probably wanted freedom. You know, she's a young girl, teenage girl. We already know that, in fact, on that trip, she had had a liaison with another person similar age to her, another young lad. She had had sex with somebody else. And why not? You know, she's a young girl that, you know, if you think you're going to stop teenagers from having sex, it's never going to happen unless you go back in time and pluck out the chastity belts again and put them on them. Even then, I think they'd find a way around it these days. You know, you just teenagers like to have sex. All their hormones go mental. You know, so she did have sex with another boy on the cruise ship. My personal opinion is that is what drove Timothy Hudson into a jealous rage. I bet he found out that she'd been with somebody, and it said that he had an obsession with Anna. Again, it's, you know, we have to wait to the trial to find out all the proper details. An ex-boyfriend of Anna's said, you know, he was on FaceTime one day with Anna, and this Timothy Hudson jumped on top of her and, you know, practically an assault, really, while he was, you know, that he was obsessed with her in an sex way. So it just makes you wonder, is that what happened? Did he find out that Anna on this cruise ship had met a young lad, had sex, and, you know, did he fly into a jealous rage? I think it's quite possible, isn't it? So anyway, what apparently happened, or this is what allegedly happened, they've got CCTV of the comings and goings from the room. You know, Timothy Hudson went in there, then Anna went back to the room, and then the other brother tried to get into the room and wasn't allowed in. Timothy Hudson made him wait 5-10 minutes before he let him in. And then the other brother went in the room, not knowing that Anna, by then, she was dead and she'd been stuffed under the bed, covered over with life jackets. Then Timothy Hudson, off he went to dispose of Anna's phone. He was in and out of the hotel room after that, apparently. This is what's alleged. Yeah, that's what the prosecution are alleging. But there's been absolute outcry because this boy, I think he's 16, it's been a bit of a mess because he's a minor. Also, because of where the crime took place in international waters, the FBI are dealing with it. So the FBI don't have juvenile detention centres. So when Timothy appeared in court not long ago, the judge said he had to look into where he could be held. So all this time since this happened, this guy, this young lad, he's been free. He's been staying with a relative, an uncle. There are children in the house. Oh my God, who would have him? You wouldn't have him in your house, would you? Not even whether you had children or not. But so, after what he's allegedly done, the FBI have just arrested him just fun of it. Anyway, he's going to be tried as an adult, and the good news is he has finally been put in prison. So all this time since this happened, which I think was last August sometime, so not far off a year now when it happened, this guy has been walking free through the neighbourhood. I mean, he's had an ankle monitor on, I believe. But yeah, he's just been going through his life. Anyway, so what they're saying is that he was assessed, mentally, if you like, and he's showing absolutely no remorse. And it's thought that it's clear that he would do exactly the same thing again. He's got something wrong with him, clearly. So he's supposed to have murdered Anna with a chokehold. He also RAPED'd her. And I read on one, video that I was watching about this, that he chokeholded her. The chokehold was so strong that her eardrums burst. I don't know how that would happen. Maybe that's not true. I don't know, but paints a horrible picture, doesn't it? He certainly RAPED'd her. So sex assault, murder, and poor Anna extinguished, totally extinguished her life, the promise, a life that had a lot in front of it, and all the, wanted to join the military, wanted to be a K9 officer. She had plans, she had hopes, she had dreams, and they've all gone because of that twonk. So let me just have a look at this article, and then I can read out for you what actually has happened. There's a lot of evil in the world, isn't it? We have to remember that there is more good than evil, but sometimes it is hard to remember, isn't it? Sometimes you just get sort of submerged in these horrible things that people can do to each other. And they were close. Well, they were a blended family. So, this cruise, I think, was part of the effort to bring the family together, to all live happily ever after. Didn't work out, did it? Just didn't work out, sadly. And Anna's the one who's paid the price for it. Anna's the one who's paid the price. Okay, let's have a look. So, new evidence in cruise ship murder. Let's try and watch the video.
Today, the Florida teenager charged with sexually assaulting and killing his 18-year-old stepsister on a Carnival cruise appearing in court.
Timothy, do you have anything you want to say?
A federal judge ruling Timothy Hudson, now 16 years old, can remain with family ahead of his trial for the murder of Anna Kepner. It comes as we get a more detailed picture of what prosecutors.
So here's the family all, that's the family all on there. So we're not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of them all together. Why was Anna not safe? Her parents, her grandparents. And here's this twonk here at the back. Why was he not safe? Why was she not safe against this boy? That's the other brother there. He's the one who didn't know, but he slept in the same room. Awful. It really is awful. What family would give him somewhere to stay when they had children in the house as well?
Looking left and right down the hallway.
So I'm going to replay that a little bit. Hi, Jacqueline. Go back to there, I think.
With family ahead of his trial for the murder of Anna Kepner. It comes as we get a more detailed picture of what prosecutors say happened that night on the cruise last November. Anna and her stepbrother were both in their stateroom starting around 7:40 p.m., according to newly unsealed documents. Prosecutors say CCTV shows Timothy leaving at 10 p.m., looking left and right down the hallway, appearing to check if there was anyone in the hallway. The video then allegedly shows a third sibling trying to get back into the room they shared after midnight, but Timothy makes him wait before allowing him in. Prosecutors adding Anna's body was found the next day. It appeared that someone had tried to hide her again by partially putting her underneath the bed. I sat down with Anna's grandparents shortly after her death, who told me she was close with her stepbrother.
He was a good student.
Yeah, this is the weirdest video that I've ever seen. So this woman is Anna's grandmother, biological grandmother. They've got similar eyes, actually. And she was defending him. Honest to God, I just feel with this whole case, Anna, who cared about Anna enough to protect her? You know, they seemed like they were all trying to say, oh, poor Timothy would never have done this. His defense is he can't remember anything. That's what he's saying at the moment. He doesn't remember anything that happened that night. That's convenient, isn't it? I personally think he would, if the coast would have been clear, he would have tried to get Anna out the room and push her over the side. I think that's what he was planning on doing. He obviously lost his head because, you know, there's no really, you know, if you planned it, you wouldn't do it on a cruise ship probably, because where are you going to put the body? But I wonder if that's what he was thinking. He's just going to push her over the side. Anyway, so this woman, very strange interview this. You know, this is her biological granddaughter, and she's more defending him.
Played soccer.
He played soccer. Very quiet young man. He had demons.
Yeah, no shit, Shirley.
I think in his past, and he was trying to deal with those.
Timothy Hudson has pleaded not guilty. Tonight, Anna's dad tells ABC News, I want him in custody. I want him to be held accountable. And
yeah, so the dad came out and said he wanted him to be.
Anna Kepner's father speaking out.
These lovely pictures of Anna. Sorry, I do like looking at the pictures of her. She's a very beautiful girl, and you know, once she was going to be an even more beautiful woman. You could see that.
Authorities believe his 18-year-old daughter was murdered by her 16-year-old
Anyway,
stepbrother.
So the thing is, let me just, I want to get to the article about him being arrested. How do I get back to the article? So the news is, the update is, he has finally been taken into custody. Finally, he had his pre-trial release revoked, and he was ordered into custody until the murder trial because of his level of. So he's like a fledgling serial killer, isn't he? Let me share this article. I think, no doubt, if he would have by some miracle, got away with this, he would definitely, you know, have done it to other women, probably. I mean, this is like something that we've been talking about with John Judge. We're going to talk about again in a minute with Preston Davey and his mum's history. Age. Is there any redemption for them? You know, and so we look at John George now. He got involved in bad things when he was young, and he ended up going to a detention centre. But they weren't like, you know, like the killers of Jamie Bull, definitely know of. He has been back in and out of prison ever since. The other one, we don't know. Maybe he is leading a nice, law-abiding, quiet life somewhere. But can somebody who does these very heinous crimes can they change? You know, teenagers do. They take drugs, they lie, things that they do. But to do these, this is a big thing. Most teenagers don't do these kind of things, even if they are on drugs. So does it show a deeper level of psychopathy when teenagers, and debate, isn't it? How much should we forgive teenagers for crimes that they commit when they're young? And, what crimes should not be forgiven, no matter how young someone is? Let me just move my picture away. Hang on. Oh, there you go. Difficult. So, yeah, Timothy Hudson, 16, has been surrendered to US Marshals on June the 15th after Judge Edwin Torres revoked his pretrial release because he is now being tried as an adult on charges of murder and aggravated sex abuse in the death of his stepsister, Anna Kepner. Unconvincing, and he adds that it suggests a level of psychopathy and a lack of remorse that by itself raises a serious concern that he could snap at any time. He's been walking free for ages. Yeah, could have killed somebody during that time. Good God. So, yeah, this was back in November, it was November 2025. So since then, despite the fact he's 8 months, imagine if you lived near him, near this man or this boy, where he was staying, and you knew what he'd done, and he's walking free, and you've got young girls in your family. My God, that just seems so irresponsible to me. Hey, Sean. Oh, you supplied the CCTV for Carnival Cruises. Yeah, well, this is America, of course. So, there's loads of him going back to the room, then Anna going back to the room and never coming back out of it again. Then the brother going to the room and not being allowed in. Then finally being allowed in, and then him coming out the van and phone. It's all on CCTV. So, he's not going to get away with it. I know, we keep coming up against this. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But sometimes the evidence is so overwhelming. You know that he's guilty, that he's done something. Because, so apparently he surrendered to US Marshals on that's to be Torres, who ordered him to turn himself in a week after prosecutors moved to revoke his pretrial release. So, yeah, the prosecution and Anna's family have been trying to get him put into prison, whereas the defense are trying to argue. So, Judge Torres thinks that Hudson presents a danger to both himself and others. He had been released into the custody of a family member. Oh my God, I couldn't have him in my house. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Not after, he hasn't, as I say, he's not just a shoplifter. He's not been writing forged checks or credit card fraud. It's RAP murder. You couldn't have him in your house. Or I couldn't. Anyway, just being honest. honest. So originally he was charged as a minor, but personally I think cruises are very dangerous. I've heard of loads of mysteries on cruises. So apparently the US Attorney's Office had argued he should be kept in custody when he was first charged in February, but he failed to meet the burden of proof required by the juvenile exercises. Rehabilitation. You can't, listen, some people cannot be rehabilitated, I'm sorry. You can be rehabilitated if you've been a drug addict or you've, shoplifted or done. Yes, I believe in rehabilitation, but not for murder and RAPE. I don't think you can be rehabilitated. I just don't think you can. Just the way it is. You've got to be a special sort of person to do. So the federal statute emphasizes rehabilitation over punishment for juveniles, and as such strongly discourages pretrial detention for minors or conditioning their release on the posting of. So the good news is he is in prison now. So Hudson's own mother has made it clear she believes her son should be in custody, releasing a statement with Anna's father following his first court appearance in February, which read in part, "At this time, it is deeply painful and distressing son is able to walk freely, and this adds to our grief and outrage." Now, of course, they're not exactly whiter themselves, are they? There's been a lot of talk about what supervision were these people given. Why were they not given any supervision? Were they not? Oh, hang on. Am I back? I went off then, I think. Oh, I'm back. Am I back in the room? I think I'm back in the room. There's been a lot of criticism of the parents, of course, for not supervising properly, because, of course, they had two other younger children there with them. And, of course, Anna's father, he's supposed to have a penchant for young girls as well. He married his babysitter, married the babysitter, I should say. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that now, but so the statement made said it is devastating to know that while we live every day with the loss of our child, the individual responsible, so they're disowning him really. But as I say, there's been a lot of criticism of them for not monitoring the behaviour on the cruise ship enough, because they were minors. And of course, Anna went off and had a relationship with another young boy, or had an encounter, if you like. Who was monitoring these young people on this cruise? That's the criticism that Anna's dad and stepmom are getting. And well, I'll leave you to make your mind up about that. But the good news is, and it is good news, I think, for the world, really, or certainly for everyone who lives around the area where he was living. This boy was walking free. I just want to put this picture up again because I do think it's important to see, look, he might look weedy when you see him on his own, but look at him next to Anna. The difference in size. Because I think when you see a picture of him on his own, and I've actually seen comments people have made, oh, he doesn't look like he could put someone in an arm lock and murder them. He's only sort of skinny and weedy. but he's still massive compared to Anna. She was tiny, barely 5 foot, I think. God. See, these are the dangers of blended families. You know, blended families can be great. You can end up with a sibling that maybe you didn't have a sibling, and it's great, and you can build a good relationship with your blended sibling. But you know, it has to be monitored because it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes there's jealousy, you know, all sorts of things. I've done many a case where somebody has been killed by a half sibling or a step sibling. Becky Watts in the UK, her stepbrother Nathan murdered her, didn't he? And dismembered her, and probably RAPD'd her, but of course that couldn't be established. You know, just because you want a blended family to work doesn't mean necessarily that it will. So you have to monitor it. You can't just think, oh, just leave them all to it. You know, so yeah, he's very tall. He's very tall, so I'm sorry, I admit you can't hear it, but it will be breaking up a little. It did break up for a while, but hopefully it's back okay now. Not much I can do with it, I'm afraid. It's my computer. So that was the update I wanted to give you. So he is in custody. Thank God. At last, he's in custody. And I'll keep an eye on this case. I suppose that'll be it now until the trial, really, or maybe discovery and things like that that happen. Yeah. Yeah, it did go for a brief thing where it was breaking up, but I think it's okay now. It's just not anything. I try and keep an eye on it. I've got my phone in front of me so I can see if it freezes or whatever. So that's Anna. That's Anna. That's the update on poor Anna. As I say, a loss to the world. You know, bright future in front of her. She was going to be a positive contribution to society. And yeah, when these people die, taken from this world, it's a loss to all of us. Just to the world as a whole, as well as the family. Obviously, the family is the most important thing. But after that, the friends. You know, then there's the sort of trauma of the people who found her. There'll be the trauma coming up of the jurors in the trial and the judge who have to listen to what this boy did to her. You know, there's so many ripples. You know, when somebody does such a terrible thing as this, or any of the crimes that we look at, the ripples go out, don't they? It affects everybody. That's why it how can I put it? It does affect us. You don't have to know a person to be affected by what happened to them and to care about justice for them. You know, I'm constantly, because of doing True Crime Channel, I'm constantly, you know, questioning myself, well, why am I doing this? Why sometimes I get so down with it, your soul hurts. But then I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because why should these twonks not get talked about? We can't just forget that these things ever happen. Talking of which, and now we saw Preston. This has probably been the worst case that I've ever covered. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? And the positive thing that's happened yesterday, of course, guilty on all charges. The new sort of, they remind me so much of, look, when you see the picture of them together, these monster dads. It's like Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, isn't it? You know, what, seeing them like that, they're going to go down in history, in British history, as probably one of the worst couples, you know, couple killers in British history. You know, you've got the Wests, Fred and Rose West. They killed their own children, you know, and they weren't gay. you know, because I don't want this turning into a homophobic attack, then they're not evil because they're gay. They're evil, full stop. Fred West and Rosemary West were evil. Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, evil. They didn't kill their own children, but only probably because they didn't have any. They went and picked on other people's children. But they're on a par, aren't they, to these horrible, gruesome twosomes that have been part of British crime history. Not immigrants, you know, immigrants get the blame for a lot of things, but we've got plenty of homegrown British killers. And some of the worst sort of cases in British history, they are British people, are the perpetrators. We can't think that British people never do anything wrong. Only immigrants do wrong things. I mean, it's just the most ridiculous argument in the world, isn't it, really? Save our kids? Yes, how are you going to save the kids? Because you don't know who these psychopaths are until something happens. In this particular case, with beautiful little Preston, let's put a picture of him up, he's much nicer to look at. Just such a beautiful, beautiful baby. Happy, smiley. You know, if he wouldn't have died that day, he'd still be out there being abused now, probably. It's almost, you know, it's like he gave up and you know, did God just take him away from all that abuse? Because, you know, I have really wrestled with this because I believe in God. And sometimes I can't see, you know, you just can't see how God could turn his face away and let this little boy be treated the way it was. You know, it's hard. It makes it hard to understand why it happened to this beautiful little boy. This little boy never had a chance in life, did he? I don't think. But anyway, so this is how I like to think of him. Smiling in heaven with his little angel wings, being cuddled, cosseted, made a fuss of, all the things that should have happened to him in this world, but sadly didn't. So hopefully they are happening to him in the next world. God bless Preston. So don't forget tonight at 8 o'clock UK time, 9 o'clock Spanish time, will be, I think I was starting the stream at 1:45. I've got a candle. I don't normally use a physical candle because I did set fire to my computer once, or melted the bottom of my computer with a tea line. So I try not to use candles, though. I've downloaded a virtual candle as well. I was going to do it with a virtual candle, but then I thought, no, for Preston, we're going to have a real candle. I'm going to light a real candle. There's going to be a minute's silence, I think. I don't know what else will be there. I'm hoping that it'll be live streamed. But even if it's not streamed and we can't actually follow the stream, I will be, you know, we'll be doing it here on here. All right, okay. Sorry, let me just share those messages because it's important. Yeah, Paul Preston. You know, this is that we're going to talk about this because Siobhan, thank you for your comments. So she says, I read this morning that Preston's grandmother wanted to adopt him after she finished her cancer treatment, but social services, I tell you what, social services have got big questions to answer in this case. Just big question. Preston, why was it, first of all, like, I understand why he was put for adoption. His mum has got a terrible history. She has, you know, she did do something really bad when she was young. She did. You can't sugarcoat it and say she didn't. She did. But, you know, she's a lot older now. Of course, she's in her 30s. She served the time she was given. So when does it come to the point? But I think the reason she wasn't allowed to keep Preston, wasn't it because of drugs, not because of her previous conviction, I think. And then what's the other thing you're saying? So, yeah, his father. His father is called Gary Nolan and also has a criminal record, but came to the court with his mother. God have mercy on them. Yeah, their hearts must be broken. And that's it. Whatever Preston's mum did in the past, which was not, was horrible. Because we also have to remember her victim, Lily. What happened to her, what she went through. But I do feel with Preston's biological mum, what she'll be going through, it's enough punishment for her. Do you know what I mean? How we can't judge her, we shouldn't, because imagine what she's going through. She's got to live with all that. It's not up to us to dig it, to stick in the knife and twist it further. But but having said that, we can't just pretend that what she did wasn't bad. It was bad. So it's horrible, isn't it? The whole thing is horrible. And the thing is, Preston didn't do anything, did he? He's just an innocent baby, and because of things out, nothing to do with him, he's ended up suffering how he suffered. It's a horrible, horrible case. It really is. But I do, on a human being level, I just feel so sorry for Preston's mum, despite whatever she did in the past, what she's going through now. You wouldn't wish it on anyone. This, it's like he is without sin cast the first stone, isn't it, or whatever. We can't. It's not up to us to judge anyway. Only God can judge. So it's not up to us to judge, is it? We have our opinions, but we can't judge. So what I wanted to just show you was a few things that have come out since the verdicts yesterday. Thank God it was the right verdict. Hope the sentencing will be on Thursday. I'll be there for the sentence. Well, I won't be there, but we'll be here. Hopefully the sentencing will be live, because quite often now in Britain they televise sentences, don't they? So didn't Varley, apparently great big girl's blouse that he is, he broke down, didn't he, in the dock when the verdict came out, vomited. He only got a thing about vomiting. Do you know, even then he's a selfish twonk, isn't he? So he's vomited all over the dock. Somebody's got to clear up that. You know what? He just doesn't give a shit about anyone but himself. And histrionics, his dramas. It's all about him. That made me angry. I thought, so some poor sod has got to clean up that crap because he can't keep himself under control, and he thinks people are going to feel sorry for him. I wonder how his mum feels. I really do. I feel for his mum. But what she think now? Great big man baby, isn't he? Selfish twonk. Even getting that sentence, he had to throw up everywhere, leave some poor other. I would have made him clear it up himself. He should have to clear it up. He's a disgusting man. Honestly, totally horrible, evil, vile man. Anyway, sorry, I'm gonna chill now. It's so hard not to get angry, isn't it? This is why I couldn't be a lawyer or a politician, because I get too angry. I'd be in the dock going, get really angry with the defendant. It's just so difficult not to get angry with people like that. But I'm glad that I get angry, because I'm glad that I can feel it. I suppose if I didn't get angry, I don't know, would it be a psychopath or something? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. So I've got myself all in the tiz now, and I'm pressing the wrong buttons. So yeah, I want to show you this article in the Daily Mail, and trigger warning, because it's going to show more sort of footage of Preston. And it's got the video on it of what's happened to my screen? Hang on a minute. It's going to show the video of Preston when the toy box fell on him. And also it shows the video of Preston when Varley shouted boo to him when he was trying to go to sleep. I don't know what I've done with my, it's all gone weird. Have I frozen again? Hang on. Have I frozen? Right, I think I've frozen. Am I back in the room? Right, I've frozen. I think I'm back. Yeah, it just froze and then it kicked me off. And anyway, I'm back now. So. Oh gosh, technology. Anyway, so I think you can hear me again now. Am I back in the room now? So I'm going to show you this article that's in the Daily Mail. Hi, Kelly. And as I say, I just want to give you a warning, a trigger warning, because you are going to see videos of Preston. Oh, where's it gone again? Oh, there it is. You are going to see videos of Preston where he's distressed. And the other thing is, we know he's a beautiful baby because we have seen beautiful pictures of him. But he really is, we can see on these videos, he's truly just adorable. They were so lucky to get this baby. So lucky to have Preston, weren't they? Just so lucky. And they didn't even realise how lucky they were, did they? Sorry, it's whirring. Come on. Bloody internet. Or I don't know if it's the internet or my computer. It's probably my computer, but anyway, there you go. I think I'm back now. So we're going to see, in the trial, those of you who followed the trial, as I say, trigger warning, be aware that you might find this distressing. We heard about the video where the toy box fell on his head, where Jamie Varley tried to say that's why he had this cluster of bruises on his head. We also going to see the video of Preston trying to go to sleep, and Varley shouts boo to keep him awake. Well, you can see on Preston's little face there, he's so tired. He didn't sleep enough, and he was trying to sleep. And this twat, sorry, excuse my French, was trying to keep him awake and torturing him, not letting him sleep. Look at that little face. It's just a little baby. Little baby. Horrible men. So, yeah, be warned. We're in again.
Enterprise puede ayudarte en todas las misiones de tu vida. Para que puedas salir, hacer lo que tengas que hacer y
Not sure why we can't hear anything. Oh, that's what that baby had to put up with. Can't get any sound on. Let's go back to the beginning. Oh. So now it's gone to hilarious video showing toddlers trying to stay awake. Probably would be nicer to watch, to be fair. Let's go again on this one. So, cruel video shows evil teacher deliberately keeping baby boy awake and shouting boo at him. Let's see if we can see it again. So, yeah, this is the video where he pulled the toy box on top of him. And there's going to be an advert, sorry. I'll cut it off. I'll edit the advert out when I come to edit this. This is murdered baby Preston Davey being deliberately kept awake by his cruel adoptive father on the eve of his first birthday. Oh, so that was the night before his first birthday. So Jamie was found guilty of the 13-month-old sex abuse, neglect and murder, and police released a video of him psychologically torturing Preston. So I'm so sorry that it cut off again. It's getting on my nerves now. That's twice now it's cut off completely for no reason that I can really see. And I wanted to, there's some interesting comments there that I wanted to talk about. So there's a, oh God. So I'm an adopter, a single male, one for approval and one to approve the match. Well, it should take every single approval you can, shouldn't it? It's like, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, because we do need people to adopt children. The care system itself is not good either, is it? So we don't want children in care. Obviously, it's better if they're in a loving household. But sadly, how do you distinguish? You know, how do you distinguish? And yeah, thank you for adopting. It's good. So Siobhan is saying she was on a chemo and had a mastectomy, but wanted to take Preston when she was recovered. That is Preston's grandma, I take it. Yeah. Yeah, there's a link to the petition, because you know the social services definitely need. What happened to Preston shouldn't have happened, because there was signs. You know, it didn't come out the blue. For in those short 4 months that Preston was with these monsters, there were many red flags. Many red flags. So, you know, what's the answer? You can't have any more red flags and having to, you know, how many, he was admitted to hospital twice before the final time. A chat to the petition to charge in the pictures, please. I don't know if that might be too long. I don't know if you'll be able to go on that or not. But anyway, I'll put it in the description box. But let's go back to this, because I just want to read you some of this. Look, so there's them trying to fall asleep. Look how beautiful he is. He was tired, and that twat wouldn't let him sleep. Oh my God. Varley doesn't, he wants to smile, but he's too tired. He's also very wary, isn't he, of him? He's looking, he knows he might only be a baby, but he knows that man is dangerous. But what can he do? He can't fucking pack a bag and leave home, can he? You can, he looks scared of Varley. He looks terrified of him. Just awful. Awful. Poor little baby. And then there was this is him playing with his toy box and it falls on top of him. And that's what Varley tried to do. Does it not instantly? I didn't. Now see all those toys he's got there. Yeah? That's what these men have been doing, putting on a good face. Oh, look, all these toys we've bought him. And look at it all, you know, and this is for this and that's for that. And all the time they're abusing the film as the lid of the box tumbles onto his head and Varley says, oopsie. Yeah, whatever. Look at his face. Oh, you just want to reach into that picture and scoop him up and give him a cuddle and tell him everything will be all right. You just want to, how can you look at a baby like that and want to do that, you know, torture them and sex assault them? How can you? What sort of a person are you? What sort of a person? Beautiful little boy. See if this video will work. Video on. There it all goes wrong, isn't it? So anyway. So thankfully they haven't released the other videos. Like another video, remember the 10:30 p.m. one, which showed Preston having an apparent seizure, was the aftermath of that attack, police said. More footage taken a few days later, which was also released and then started.
En un taller de mecanizado.
Varley played the footage to nurses at the Blackpool Victoria Hospital, and after they questioned how he'd come by bruises on his forehead, but he failed to tell them that in truth the video had been taken 12 days earlier and couldn't have caused the injury. Detectives from was one of the most harrowing cases they had ever investigated. It's certainly the worst case. So they said the police officer, the chief inspector, said that they lived their lives on social media and were very Instagram ready. And what I mean by that is that everything was for show. How many times have we seen that? They tried to present as the perfect family, living in the perfect home, having the perfect lives. The reality was far removed from a professional, well-to-do couple that lived, in Jamie Varley's words, in the show home. Varley took hundreds of pictures of Preston after he came to live with the couple. At their semi-detached house in Blackpool in April 2023. It was all for effect. Their Instagram lifestyle. The picture they tried to present was one of respectability, but the truth is far more sinister than that. Preston was murdered on July 27th after Wicked Varley twice sex assaulted him, twice, obstructing his breathing with either his hand or inserting an object or body part into his mouth. Dios. Days earlier, he had tortured the infant by filming him being spun aggressively in a teacup-style roundabout in a local park. Preston appears haunted and dazed in the footage. Watchfulness, a phenomenon frequently found in children who are mistreated. You could just see in those photographs a different child that's looking back at the camera. It's really sad to see. Visibly looks like a different child. They have beaten him. They have systematically assaulted him, psychologically tortured him. Now, I just want to say, this is the last time that I'm going to go through all these details. Of course, we've got sentencing coming up. I have to talk about the twonks at sentencing on Thursday. But like tonight for the video, we'll only be talking about little Preston. No details of anything that happened to him, but going on about it. But the thing is, people need to know what horrible people they are. So the senior officer said they found no evidence that the men set out Varley put his hand to his mouth and then collapsed and was sick in the dock, leaving it someone else. As GF stood motionless in the dock. So as the jury, Preston's grandmother, after it emerged there was a string of mischances. Davey said, I am relieved, I'm happy it's all over. So it can, and she's got enough torture, you know, from this, what's happened to Preston. But of course, Lily, her victim, her elderly victim, she, you know, deserves her sort of, you know, prayers too, and the love for her and everything. It's a mess, isn't it? It's a mess. So this is Preston with his mum. He only spent 5 days with her, and then he was removed. So I think we have to remember Lily, who was Lily. She was 71 years old, and Sarah, who is now 42, who is Preston's biological mum, was 15. In 1998 in Failsworth, in for a cup of tea, the two young murdered her. tortured her, murdered her. I just don't, there are no words, really. There are no words. So what do we sort of make of that? We can't just pretend it never happened. As I said earlier, you can't just pretend it never happened. Lily was a person too. But I do feel that Preston's mum is probably getting enough torture now, herself. I just, I literally have no words as far as this is concerned. I don't want to, only God can judge her. Only God can judge her. But it was described by the judge as an unspeakably wicked crime. They squirted her that her dentures were forced down her throat. They then put her body in a bin, walked it through the streets of Failsworth and threw it in the Rochdale Canal. Now, no, Sarah is a drug addict. Does that excuse a crime like that? And the fact that she was only 13 or 14. They made hundreds of calls from Lily's phone and used her pension money to buy crisps and chocolate. Just no words. So she was first released from jail in 2013, but then she's older, she's not baby, of course. I think she had Preston in a facility. I don't think she was free when she actually had Preston. So this is her when she was when she murdered Lily. This is Lily. We can't forget Lily. You can, Preston looks like a, for me, but it really has left me speechless because I just don't know what to say. It's Lily, and then, but of course, if she would have been allowed to keep Preston, or her mum at least would have been allowed to keep Preston, Preston would be celebrating his 4th birthday today. In the normal way, like 4-year-olds do. Balloons, a party, with friends, because they start just by the age of 4. They really know it's their birthday, don't they? And they enjoy it, and they enjoy having their friends there, and they've got the cake, and they're blowing out the candles. So instead of all that Preston should have been doing today, there's a candlelit vigil for him in his memory. So it's very, whereas if she would have been allowed, Sarah would have been allowed to keep Preston, or her mum would have been allowed to keep Preston in a family unit, because his sister was in that with his grandma as well. He would with his head. I mean, he had some. I think when he went to the foster parents. He did have some love. Thank God. So the last 4 months of his life were a nightmare, but at least he had a few months of being loved and cared for properly by his foster parents. I'm sure his mum loves him. See, this is the thing. It's a real dichotomy, isn't it? Because whatever this girl did to poor Lily all those years ago, I'm sure Sarah loved Preston. And they would all been there at his birthday party, even if he was still with his foster parents, murderers. Preston's all been, as far as Sarah's concerned, torment already. So Preston was born in June 2022 in Wythenshawe Hospital. I know it well. That's not far from where I used to live in Manchester. When Davey was back in prison, and was taken off her. Oh, he was born in Wythenshawe Hospital. So he was taken off by social services just 5 days later and placed with foster parents. Mrs. Davey, the mum, the grandma, wanted to formally adopt the boy but pulled out of the process. You know, your faith, you just think, how did God turn his face away from this little boy? Ooh. The case should be sacked, adding everyone involved with Preston. What can't be very good social workers if they didn't just spend 10 minutes with that vile Jamie Varley and realise what a great big immature man baby he was. Not capable of looking after a gerbil, never mind a baby. How was that not spotted instantly? Oh, so we've got a little bit more information about the jury. Jurors were discharged. There's one woman and one man were discharged. I don't know. So I'm not going through all the injuries again and everything. I think we've had about enough of that, really. Yeah, and then it's going through the case, but we went through the case. Statements. Oldham Council say no staff have been disciplined or sacked, but they are having an independent child safeguarding practice review. Karen Tong, Crown Prosecution Service, said this has been one of the most shocking and horrific cases I've dealt with. Now, on another article I've got up here somewhere, I don't think it's here. I'm going to go to 9. Oh, you just feel like crying, don't you? You know, you can't. It's so very sad, isn't it? Why is that not sharing now? Should be sharing, but oh, it's just so very sad. I mean, I'm glad Preston's got justice, but it doesn't bring him back, does it? Bless him. Doesn't bring this little one back. Come on. So slow, pain in the ass. Trying to share this article, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter if I share it because I'm just going to read it out. But there you go, finally. So this is, go to the top. These are the red flags that should have been seen. Let's see, where is it? Where is it? So, on at least 9 occasions in his short life, medical or other safeguarding professionals were alerted to concerns about Preston Davey. So, we're looking at 4 months that he was with these men, and 9 times professionals were alerted to concerns. In 4 months, that's 2 a month. All the while he was continuing to be abused and eventually murdered. So let's see what the... So he was taken to hospital on 3 separate occasions. Concerns about unexplained bruises were dismissed. His social worker was a regular visitor to the home and checked in on Preston when he was discharged from hospital. A supervising social worker from Oldham Council looked at whether there was something going on after his 3rd hospital visit, and despite his broken arm, she noted, "I did watch your responses to your daddies quite carefully." Daddies. They hadn't been had him long enough to earn the title of dad. "I am aware you have had a few hospital admissions of late, and this made me ponder a little as to if there was a problem that I couldn't see. I decided there wasn't an issue, as you and they presented as perfectly at ease and very affectionate towards each other." Oh my God. Oh my God. Each occasion, Farley was able to convince people Preston was just a clumsy baby, simply suffering from a bad run of ill health. And this was despite Preston being what the defence called as a highly visible baby, with so many healthcare and safeguarding officials tasked with keeping an eye on what was happening to him behind closed doors at home in Blackpool from the day he was born in Wythenshawe Hospital. Well, you know what? You think that if a baby like Preston, there's John G.F., he's chilling him. A baby like Preston, who was under attention from social services and everything because of going through the adoption process. So he had regular visits, regular checks. Then he was taken to hospital several times. Then he had those seizures. So if a baby like Preston, with all the attention that was on him, could not be saved, what chance have other babies got that are out there in the world right now as we're talking, in biological families being treated like Preston is, but nobody even knows anything about them? We've covered a few of those cases, haven't we? You know, over in America, little baby Emmanuel Harrow, you know, they just go under the radar. Even Preston couldn't be saved, and he was a high visibility, high profile baby. You know, a baby in adoption process could not be saved 4 months in. It's not as if they'd had him for 4 years and that people had stopped paying attention. For fuck's sake. So Davey's grandmother, Deborah Davey, has now demanded answers about how the couple were allowed to adopt baby Preston, as alarm bells should have been ringing. And at the time of his birth, Preston's mother, convicted killer Sarah Davey, was resident in the mother and baby unit at Style Women's Prison in Cheshire. But at 5 days old, weighing just over 5 pounds 7 ounces, Preston was taken into the care of Oldham Council and his mother returned to custody. Don't they have mother and baby units? I mean, I don't know. Don't you just feel that there should have been another alternative here? Anyway, foster carers Sandra and Paul Cooper, a couple with 27 years experience of caring for vulnerable babies, stepped in to care for the newborn baby. He had a slight milk allergy and reflux, but otherwise he thrived in their home. This is the only happy time that Preston had, really, wasn't it? Mrs. Cooper described Preston as a really lovely baby who was having a really nice life, and photos captured Preston with a cheeky smile and a glimmer in his eyes during the 9 months he spent in their care. Then, in late 2021, John G. Fazackley, sales manager, approached Adoption Now. He and his partner of 3 years, Jamie Varley, a teacher, were ready to start a family and began a program of training to become adoptive parents. Well, it wasn't a very good program, was it? They owned their home, a semi in Blackpool, and they lived there with their dog Maximus. I think just even the dog's name is a red flag, personally. McGowan, who went to private school, was the quieter of the two, while Varley was known as a drama queen. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. He was popular with staff and pupils at South Shore Academy, where he worked as a textiles teacher. I think he would be popular. I expect, teenagers, they would love him because he was dramatic. And so, they would love that, wouldn't they? They probably saw him as not like the traditional teachers, not dry and boring and what have you. But yeah, not boring at all. Just the bloody PDF. So educated, professional and financially stable, the couple seemed the ideal candidates to take on the care of a young child. Social worker Vicky Redditt was assigned to the couple. Well, Vicky, you need to find another job, Vicky. You're not very good. And a series of background checks began, delving into the couple's finances, health and family backgrounds. Hey, none of that matters. I would have spent 10 minutes with that Varley and known he's not capable of looking after a goldfish, never mind a baby. Along with in-depth DBS checks, Varley and McGowan Fazackley undertook training, in part online due to COVID restrictions, about what to expect as adoptive parents. So here we go. Here's lovely little Preston, when he was with his foster mum. Look at him, he's happy, he's smiley. This is an adorable baby. I mean, literally adorable. And look what they did to him. I hope they get a long sentence. So we've been talking about the sentence. Somebody gave a comment saying they thought Varley would get 50 years. I bloody hope so. I don't think he will get 50 years, sadly. I think he might get 30. And GF, of course, he's not been found guilty of murder, but he's been found guilty of, enough other serious things. I think he might get 20 years, but we'll find out this week. So in January 2023, they were approved as adopters, and the search for a child began. And the same month, the final care order was made by the family court, and social worker Amy Shepherdson was tasked with finding a suitable family for Preston. So Amy, you're another one, needs to find another job. You're not good at your job. So Amy Shepherdson, and what was the other one? Vicky Reader or something. Find another job. You were crap. You were crap with what you did for Preston. You did not, how could you not tell instantly by talking to that vile man that he was not capable? But just because he was a teacher. So a pre-adoption medical carried out by Dr. Mukherjee, consultant paediatrician of Oldham Trust, described Preston as gorgeous, happy, alert, interactive. And the doctor said, in summary, I have no major health concern for him, and it was a pleasure to review him today. So he didn't realise that 4 months later he'd be on a mortician's slab, having a bloody post-mortem. I wish him all the best in the future. On February the 13th, a bump into meeting took place at Ashtree Farm in Ashton-under-Lyne. This planned meet was a first opportunity for Preston to meet his potential fathers, accompanied by his foster mum and social worker. Miss Shepperton noted the interactions were very natural. You got the sense that John and Jamie had been around children previously and knew how to interact with them. Well, they said they had no experience with babies. But then we find out that actually Jamie Varley has got lots of nieces and nephews. Honest to God, I wonder, it just makes you wonder, did he ever babysit for those babies? Scary thought, isn't it? Oh, look, and this is their dog. I just wanted to show you a picture of my dog. Look, one of my dogs. So this is Maximus, which is the most ridiculous name for a dog. Well, look at my dog, Rocky. Let me just show a picture of him. If I can find it. So it's the spit of my dog. I wonder if I can do it that way. So see that dog? Look at my dog. This is my dog. Little Rocky, we call him, because the Princess Tia, the big dog, also gets called Rocky. So this is my dog, Rocky, who's adorable. And this is their dog, Maximus. Honestly, spit of each other, aren't they? They've got pincher. Well, my dog's not a pedigree rescue dog, but the vet said he had some pincher in him. But yeah, very. It was quite eerie to see that, how much he looks like my dog. But anyway, sorry, just in the side. Because the way the dog's looking at him. Because, you know, if that was my dog, because he's so food orientated. Look at the way that dog is doing, eating food. Where's my food? My dog would be after the food. So on March the 9th, the adoption was approved by Oldham Council and a period of introductions began. First at the home of Sandra and Paul Cooper and later at the home of Varley and McGowan Fazakerley. In Staining Road, Blackpool, Mrs. Cooper stayed at a nearby hotel as Preston was not a good sleeper and she wanted to be on hand if the new parents ran into difficulty. And the process, overseen by both social workers, was considered a success. And on April the 3rd, 2023, Preston went to live with his new family. Mrs. Cooper said her goodbyes, left a video recording of herself singing. Oh, bless, because oh my God, I couldn't do that either, foster parenting, because I'd end up taking them, adopting them all. How do you say goodbye? How do you say goodbye to an adorable baby like that? And even if you weren't, comfortable with who he was going to, you've got to let him go. So left a video recording of herself singing and a selection of familiar toys to comfort the little boy. 3 further meetups were scheduled to wean Preston away from his foster carers. And she hoped they would stay in touch in the longer term. But in the months that followed, Preston's health deteriorated and he was taken to hospital on 3 separate occasions. So she then lost control, of course, of him, didn't she? She lost control of him, and I feel for her. as well. How awful, in view of what happened. So he suffered nosebleed, breathing difficulties, and a fracture to his elbow. So these are the other red flags. May the 25th, police called. Social worker notified. Unexplained bruises to Preston's head, but doctors were satisfied it was a medical episode, no further action. June the 30th, hospital, rash and temperature. Varley asked about bruising to his head. He showed the video of the toy box falling on him. The bruising was accepted as childhood accident, but it later emerged this could not have been the cause as it had been recorded 2 weeks earlier. Fracture to the elbow, July the 6th, accepted as accidental after Varley said Preston had twisted it while he was putting him in his cot. Prosecution alleged this was a non-accidental injury. Look at it. So, thing is that each of these instances are not enough in themselves, are they, to create concern. But you put them all together, often babies have to be taken to the hospital with a bruise or, some sort of injury because of falling over or whatever. But mainly toddlers, really, more than babies. It's unusual for babies to get those kind of injuries. They can call him a toddler as much as they want, but it wasn't a toddler, he was a baby. Toddlers get more injuries, don't they? So you talk about a baby who can't even walk yet, and he's at the hospital every 5 minutes, got broken arm, he's got 40 injuries in 4 months. Now, they're crap, aren't they? They could have, why was this not picked up on? Why? Why was it not picked up on? So he was, because during this time he was seen regularly by social workers, either in person or on video calls. It was observed that he could be clumsy, because that's what Jamie Varley kept saying, just a clumsy baby. Oh, he's just a clumsy baby. And would topple over when sitting and reaching, thought to be due to a turn in his eye, which, of course, Jamie pointed out, didn't he? A group chat was active with the men and social workers, in which they posted updates. Varley said he was struggling with lack of sleep and adapting to his new role, but he sought help and support from his own mother, a mum of 5, an experienced grandma who lived nearby. How does she feel, I wonder? And did he ever babysit those other children? Scary thought, isn't it? Because you know what? We'll never know if he did anything to those other children. It's impossible to know. Because if he did it when they were babies, they won't remember, will they? Helen McGee, an independent reviewing social worker, visited the family on July the 7th and watched how Preston responded to his adoptive fathers. Aware of his hospital admissions, she pondered if there was a problem she couldn't see, but she decided that all 3 seemed happy and at ease. On July 27th, he was carried into the A&E department at Blackpool, Victoria, unresponsive and in cardiac arrest. In other words, he was dead. Medics worked on him for almost an hour, but at 7:20, they said there was no more they could do, and Preston was pronounced dead. But he was already dead when they took him in. Varley was hysterical, gave the story that Preston had fallen from the bath seat when he was left alone for a matter of minutes while he went to get some clothes. I thought he went in the shower to condition his hair. Lancashire police were called in to investigate his death, and DCI Andy Fallow said, as in any death of the child, there's a procedure that kicks in. Due to the information we had that Jamie provided, that Preston had been left in the bath, criminal offences were considered. He was arrested that same night, initially on suspicion of child neglect, and a Home Office post-mortem took place. It was quite clear that things weren't quite as they were presented. No evidence of drowning. And then subsequently, a number of expert tests were undertaken, and that provided us with a picture of a very different version of events than given by Varley. 40 injuries. We won't go through all that again. So detectives then quizzed professionals, staff at Blackpool Victoria Hospital, professionals involved in the family through the adoption process, friends and former colleagues of Varley. Mobile phone records were examined and both men were interviewed under caution. But they were both in September. They were both released under investigation and returned to live together. That's when I knew they were both in it together, because if it was just Varley, John GF would never have gone near him again, would he? They were in it together. They're an unholy alliance. Hi, Louise. Hi, Louise. Thanks for watching. So, investigators uncovered videos captured on his phone, and we've seen all those. I'm not going to go through all that again. His text showed resentment, and then there were the videos of him struggling to breathe, etc. Oldham Council opened a child safeguarding review, which was paused during criminal proceedings, but will now continue. And the spokesperson for adoption now said this was a deeply upsetting case, and our thoughts are with everyone affected by these crimes. Preston's death was completely avoidable, isn't it? Sometimes things happen and you think, oh, it's unavoidable. There's no way it could have been prevented. But what's really annoying about this as well, makes it even worse than it already is. This was preventable. There were red flags and they could have been acted upon. Were they not acted upon because of political correctness? I think these men were allowed to adopt Preston because of political because to sort of fill a quota of diversity. I really do think that. And I think maybe that's a reason why, they were never held to account. So the adoption now said they follow a rigorous process in line with all relevant legislation and guidance. Yeah, whatever. Well, it's not good enough then, is it? And a spokesperson for Oldham Council said, the death of any child is a tragedy, but this is a particularly heart-wrenching and disturbing case. We are thankful that the perpetrators of the sickening murder and abuse of an innocent child have today been convicted for their crimes. Well, we know what the inquiry will end up with, lessons learned. There's been so many children let down by social services over the years. Little Arthur, Star Hobson, Baby P, Sarah Sharif. Will it ever change? So, an NSPCC spokesperson said this case will leave many people asking how such a tragedy could have happened. Babies are particularly vulnerable as they are entirely reliant on the adults around them for care and protection. Varley and GF are responsible for Preston's suffering and death, and it is vital that any learnings identified for others involved in this boy's short life are fully acted upon to help protect children in the future. I mean, it makes you wonder, should they have some sort of psychological test? I mean, I just feel that I'd only have to spend 10 minutes with Jamie Varley and I would know. I might like him because I bet he can come over as quite likeable, but I would know that he was an immature drama queen. You don't give babies to immature drama queens to adopt, do you? So they say everyone can play a part in keeping children safe. Sometimes that means asking difficult questions and thinking the unthinkable. Yeah, I do think there's that, isn't it? If you're not that sort of person, you can't imagine that anybody would do that to a baby. abuse them in that way. So it's hard sometimes, even though you might be suspicious of it, it's hard to sort of, think, oh yeah, that's what's happening. I've said on other videos, I had a neighbour years ago. He was a guy on his own. He was looking after his daughter. He said it was his daughter. I wasn't even sure I think it was his biological daughter. But he was quite old to be looked like. So she was about 2 or 3 years old. He was in his 50s. He was a horrible man, but he had the care, or when we all moved into these houses, he had the care of this little girl. And his story about what happened to the mother, I often wondered, was she buried under the patio? Because the mother was nowhere to be seen. He said he'd saved the mother in the UK. Apparently he used to be a policeman, he said. There's a lot, I could do a whole video about him. Anyway, he said he met this young girl, she was only young, the mother, in the UK. And I don't know if she was a Muslim or she was, because he said he'd saved her from an arranged marriage. And he'd come over to live in Spain with the mother and the baby. The little girl was a baby when they came over to live in Spain. And then the mother had run off with a load of Moroccans. That's what he told me, that the mother had gone off with a load of, I still don't actually know what happened to that mother. I have no idea, but anyway, I don't know if the police ever found out, but anyway, he took this little girl on holiday to, of all places, the Canary Islands somewhere, and he dropped dead of a heart attack. And anyway, so the little girl was put into care briefly, but ended up going to a neighbour's. But that's not what I'm here to tell you about. So what happened was, there were times when we felt, all of us along my neighbours, that maybe this girl was being abused by him, if not in an sex way, in a physical way, because he would get really angry with her, and even in public. So you always think, if that's what someone's like in public, they're going to be worse in private, aren't they? And quite often we would see her with her nose pressed up against the window, like looking really pathetic and looking for help. Oh God, it was horrible. And it was, what can you do about it? So to cut a long story short, after agonising over it for ages, because the thing is, one, I've got to live here for a start near him, and he was a very aggressive man. And my son was only a little boy at the time. Two, you think, well, if you do report him and she gets taken off him, where's she going to end up? She'll end up in care. Is that even worse, than whatever's going on there? And so after a lot of sort of soul searching, what I did in the end was I went to the school and I asked the headmaster at the school, is there somewhere you can report potential CA without, actually your name being mentioned? This was when he was still alive, obviously, the guy was still alive. And the headmaster said to me, if something's going on with one of my students, I want to know about it. Tell me, I'll deal with it. So I told him. And apparently the little girl was taken out of school and taken to the health centre to be examined. And everything was okay, like, on the surface and everything. So, but it set off a process, and social services got involved, and they tried to go. I tell you, if they would have set foot in that house of his, they would have taken her off him immediately. Because after he died, we had to go into the house because, it's like something off a film. His mum, who was in her 80s and had never been on an aeroplane before, suddenly turned up to come and to stay at the house while she was repatriating his body from the Canary Islands. She obviously couldn't have the little girl because she's too old. She turned up with her boyfriend, who was also in his 80s. And they were brought to my door because I was then the only person who spoke English on the whole street. So we got the keys from the funeral home because the keys were on his person. We went into the house. Oh my God, how that little girl had been living. There was dog excrement everywhere. And you know what? The thing is, this is a guy who, when he took his dogs out, he would go out with a bag picking up the poo, even before people used to do it. You know, in a time when people didn't used to go and pick up their poo, they'd take their dogs somewhere, you know, the places that we used to call poo stops, you know, where the dogs would stop and have a poo. And nobody ever, you know, I'm talking 20 years ago, probably. People didn't pick up their poo, but he did. He'd go out with it. And I thought, what's he doing with this poo? Is he bringing it home and smearing it across the walls? You know, what a weirdo. And I mean, anytime you ever saw him out, he was immaculate. And in fact, the bathroom was quite immaculate, not immaculate, but reasonably clean. He was a hoarder. He had clothes in his wardrobe that had never been worn. There was just heaps of stuff everywhere. It was full of bugs. It was like something you'd see on one of these TV programs. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. And I forgot my start. So I'm on the waffle again. I forgot my start telling this story. Oh, so what I'm saying is it's not easy to report someone sometimes because there's a lot of things go through your head. As I say, for me, it was like, well, I was a single parent. My son, like I won't be scared now because he's, you know, grown man now, 6'5" and a heavyweight boxer. But at the time he was only about 2. So, you know, no, he wasn't 2. Older than that, was about 7 probably. And if this man found out that it was me who'd reported him, would he take it out on me, you know, because he was a very aggressive man. Then the second thing I was worried about is, well, what's going to happen to her if they take her off him? Where's she going to end up? Is she going to end up in care? Is something bad going to happen to her in care then? So it's very complex. It's not as easy as just, go and report it. Anyway, so I think I did the right thing. I went to the school, spoke to the headmaster, and he just took charge of it. He just said, tell me who it is. Nobody will ever find it out off me. But I'd later found out other people had complained as well. So I wasn't the only one. Other neighbours had complained. So anyway, that's so much that story. This is what I mean. Children are so vulnerable. You can't rely on biological parents to look after their kids, can you? You know, so this is why social services are so important. You know, especially in an adoption process like this. Anyway, so April the 29th. Now this is important. April 29th, 2023, a meeting was arranged with foster carers Sarah and Paul Cooper at Barton Grange, Preston. Mrs. Cooper said she felt the meeting was at an inconvenient time, but they made every effort to see Preston. She said Preston looked stiff and a bit blank, and she was really worried about him. The next planned visit was for her birthday on May the 8th, but it was cancelled by the adoptive parents. In May, Mrs. Cooper learned they had made a complaint against her, and she said, I knew I would never see him again. Oh my God. Oh. So sad. And then the next time she's seen him is on the news because he's been murdered. So she later raised concerns that they were hiding Preston from her. So she raised concerns. That's, oh my God, nobody listened to her. May the 15th, GF made a 999 call. Varley was heard to say, put it down. Remember, we listened to that, put it down. Could hear him as like that say it. Then the call was abandoned. Later, he called at 111 from Varley's mother's house, reporting breathing difficulties. Two return calls were not answered. Neither mentioned any health problems during a routine health visitor check the following day. May the 25th, Preston was taken to Blackpool Victoria Hospital with a nosebleed. While in the hospital, he had a seizure, which doctors said was a febrile convulsion. Bruises were noted on Preston's head and the police were informed. An explanation was offered. Preston had just started crawling. Remember, he was banging his head into the fidget spinners on the doors, which he left there on the doors. He'd only have to bang them once in my house and then they'd be gone. Preston's social worker, Amy Shepherdson, she needs sacking, was contacted, but later informed she did not need to attend and the safeguarding referral was closed. June 30th, he was admitted to the hospital with a rash and a temperature. Bruises were noted to Preston's head, but Varley showed that video of Preston pulling the toy box onto himself. This was accepted by doctors, but of course we find out now that actually happened 2 weeks earlier. July 4th, social worker Amy visited and noticed Preston was pale and not his usual self. Oh God, he tried to smile. Sorry. He tried to smile, but this turned into a sad face. He wasn't really interested in his toys and he just wanted to be held. The parents noticed he could be quite clumsy and his vision could be a factor. Oh God, I hate these men so much. I hate them. Honestly, the hate, I feel like if I could get hold of him, I could do them some damage myself. So this baby that was happy, bubbly, smiley, now he's just sad and he just wants to be held. He's trying to tell her. The parents were committed but had found it hard, she said. July 6, Preston was taken to hospital with a spiral fracture to his elbow. Varley claimed he'd been holding his hands in the cot. Preston let go of one arm and twizzled backwards. He did not cry, but Varley said he heard a click. The following day, he noticed the baby was not using that arm, and Varley FaceTimed Miss Shepherdson. How many red flags did this Shepherdson person need? So she told him to take Preston to A&E. She should have been straight on the phone to the police. July the 6th, she visited. She'd been in contact with the hospital and she reassured the parents. They said they had absolutely no concerns. In the witness box, she said, in hindsight, a review probably should have taken place, but there were no concerns raised by the medics, and she had no concerns following her visit. While Preston's arm was in a cast, Varley visited Janet G. Oh, this is his work colleague. She said he seemed agitated and he wasn't bonding with Preston as he had hoped. He said he had dark thoughts about harming the baby by smothering him or drowning him in the bath. Oh my God. I just want you to picture your friend, your work colleague, your friend, whatever, just had a baby, comes round to your house. How's it going? Oh, the baby's lovely, blah, blah, blah. And then they say to you, well, actually, I'm really struggling and I have dark thoughts about drowning them or smothering them. What would you do? If you didn't go to the police or social services, you would at least speak to the partner. Now, he says, John GF says she didn't speak to him. She didn't say she spoke to him, so I suppose we have to assume that that's true. But she's another one. She's got to bear some responsibility. I'm sorry. Sorry, Janet G. When your friend tells you they've got having dark thoughts about killing their baby, murdering their baby, you've got to do something. You've got to do something. Can't just, what did she do? Laugh it off? Oh, don't be silly. She's another one. There are all these red flags. All these red. July the 7th, Helen McGee, independent reviewing social worker for Oldham Council. Oldham Council, you're shite. Visited the family. In her note, she wrote, I visited you at home, Preston. Now, I don't like this either. I don't like this where she's writing as if she's talking to Preston. Preston's a 13-month-old baby. You want a professional report about the baby, not like this. Oh, I visited you at home, Preston. You were there with both your daddies. That is so condescending. Sorry, I don't like that. Don't like that at all. Do your job properly. Be professional. Don't try and talk like this. It's ridiculous. As if you're talking to Preston. If you were talking to Preston, you could have sort of said, I'll save you from these two murderous psychopaths. What is this? You were there with both your daddies, sitting on a playmat, merrily chewing on the toys you put to your mouth. Though you had an injury to your arm. But this is like some bloody Little Britain sketch, isn't it? Well, yeah, you did have an injury to your arm, but hey, spiral fracture. And so you weren't using that arm, but you presented as perfectly happy and relaxed. Oh my God, it's like Matt Lucas reading it out, or David Williams. What the fuck? Sorry. I did watch your responses to your daddies quite carefully, as I am aware you've had a few hospital admissions of late. Oh my God. What? And this made me ponder a little, as if there may be a problem I couldn't see. What is this real? Is this actually real? As you say, Kelly, it's nauseous, it's woke. I don't even know, I don't know what it is, but it is definitely nauseous. It's talking to Preston. He's a baby. Do a professional report, for fuck's sake. Do your job. Not talking to a 13-month-old baby. You sat there and assessed a baby who had a plaster cast on because his arm had been fractured. And if you know anything, even I know, I'm not a fucking social worker, I know that babies don't fracture their arms. You sat there and didn't notice anything was strange. And then a couple of months later, that baby was dead. So you need a new job as well. You should be prosecuted, in fact. You should be prosecuted for that stupid report. Is that how people make their reports? So condescending. Though you had an injury to your arm, and so you weren't using that arm, you presented as perfectly happy and relaxed. Perfectly happy and relaxed with your two daddies that were abusing you and ended up murdering you. But you were perfectly happy and relaxed, so I didn't see the need to actually do anything about it. She needs sacking. So then she says, I decided there wasn't an issue, as you and they presented as perfectly at ease and very affectionate towards each other. Daddy Jamie's clearly the main carer. The main abuser, you mean? But Daddy John, oh my God, get me a bucket. No wonder this baby never stopped throwing up. The amount of crap it's had to listen to. Poor Preston has had to listen to so much crap, bless him. Daddy John interacted freely with you as well and talked about you in glowing terms. Oh my God, what did you think he was going to say? Oh yeah, I hate that little shit. He's not going to say that, is he, to the social worker, for fuck's sake? You're supposed to be there to see behind what people are saying. People are going to be telling you what you want to hear, whether they're abusers or not. You're there to look behind the lines, like, the fractured arm, the bruises, the sad look in his eyes. Those are the things you're supposed to be identifying behind the words that abusers will tell you, psychopaths, the lies they'll give you. Ah. Then a Lancashire police spokesperson said, 25th of May, Varley took Preston to Blackpool Victoria Hospital. I mean, to be honest, how many times was he in that hospital? God, it'd be like practically getting a job there before you know it. I mean, he's there more often than the nurses. He had breathing difficulties and he'd suffered a seizure. Police were contacted by safeguarding staff at the hospital and detectives from our child protection team attended. However, medical staff indicated there were no concerns. No one had any concerns about this baby. 40 injuries in 4 months, broken arm, bruises, seizures, vomiting constantly. Nobody had any concerns. As a result, we did not see baby Preston, Jamie Varley or John GF that day. This was the only time police received contact from hospital staff regarding Preston Davey until the day he died. Yeah, Louise, it does makes your blood boil, really boil. Honest to God, I could really, really go off on one, but I think I've gone off enough. Well, look at this at the bottom. Enjoyed this story? No. Fucking terrible story. But it needs telling all the same. This poor little boy. So there you go. So I think we can all agree that this should not have happened. There was enough red flags, wasn't there? How many more red flags do you need? More red flags than Moscow. I just don't know. What does it take? What does it take to spot that something's wrong? And don't forget, I know I keep banging on about it, but it's such a short period of time. 4 months. Thank God, really, for little Preston. As if that baby, that baby would still be there now being abused, I suppose. Or would social service finally have caught up on the fact that he was being abused? I don't know. Doesn't feel like it. It's like they didn't want to make an issue of it. Is it because they were gay? Did they not want to be accused of homophobia? I think that Varley, 100%, the first, he was a bit like that with the police in his interview, accusatory. When they were asking him about the photos of Preston's genitals, he was like, oh, well, you're more obsessed with his genitals than I am. You seem to keep going on about it. He kept deflecting it back on the police, like it was the policeman that had taken the photos of Preston's genitals. I think 100% he would have been like, oh, taking him to court. And remember he said, I'll fight this till the day I die. Well, might be sooner than you think, Jamie, once you get into prison. But I wouldn't wish that on you. I don't wish it on you. I wish you a long, unhappy life in prison. I hope you suffer for a long time. I hope you get a long sentence. And God, he'd probably be vomiting all over the prison. He's obsessed with vomit. If it's not Preston, makes you wonder, when John GF said, oh, I went into the room and it stank of vomit. I've heard if you had £1 for every time vomit was mentioned in that trial, you probably have about 500 quid. It's all about vomit. And then when he gets his his verdict, he's vomited and left that for someone else to clear up. But when GF said, oh, he went into the room and it stank of vomit, babies don't stink of vomit. I mean, when babies are sick, it's generally just milk, isn't it? Or, he was 13 months old. I'm sure he was eating some solids, but they wouldn't have been proper solids, would they? Or he shouldn't have been. I mean, wouldn't he be on the transition from... Oh, I don't know. I don't know, but why would he have been so sick? He made him sick because he wanted him to bring up whatever he put there in his stomach, your mind boggles, but I think that's exactly what happened. But maybe he was sick as well. Maybe he was sick as well. That's, he's just a drama king. Or queen, probably better. I just got to look at him. We'll be looking at him until the sentencing. Look. Evil. There's the faces of evil right there. They're both as evil as each other. I think, personally, I find John GF the most chilling one. I think he's like, he's like the night. Oh, have you ever met people? I've met many people. So nice on the surface, sugary sweet. Like, oh, little one, we put little one down to bed and we did this and we did that. So nice, so sugar, you could vomit actually, because they're just so sort of sickly sweet. And inside they're absolute. If it's a word, absolute. I knew a woman that I worked with at a radio station here in Spain. Oh, on the surface, oh, nicey. Oh, underneath, granite bitch, complete bitch. Couldn't trust her further than you could throw her. And you know what? I'd rather have somebody who is, difficult than somebody who pretends to be really nice and then inside, because you can feel it. If you're empathetic, that they're not genuine. And they're confusing because they're appearing to be all nicey, and then inside they're a total bitch. And you're then fighting with you because you're thinking, is it me or am I being unfair thinking that? Well, you're not. Follow your gut. That's something I've learned in life. This particular girl, I mean, she's older now. Because she'd act like a little girl, like she was probably, I don't know, late 30s at the time. It's quite a long time ago, so she'll be late 50s now. So I wonder if she's still pretending to be a little girl, girly, like, but really inside I'd say bitchy, the way she spoke about her own sister. That's how I realised finally that I was right. She was a bitch because she told me some things about her own sister that she should have told me. I didn't know her well enough, really personal things. And I just thought, if she's saying this about her own sister, I've got no chance. You know what I mean? It's like, she's so nasty about her own sister. She's not going to be nice about me, is she? But there you go. That's how John GF strikes me. All nicey on the surface, and then underneath, absolute granite, cold-hearted psychopath. I think Jamie Varley is more sort of just what he is, but he put on a persona. I can imagine him at school, as a teacher. Probably the kids thought he was great because he's fun, and it'd be all fun and laughs and jokes, and this, that, and the other. Just thought it was a clumsy baby, just thought it was and inside, really, he's not a nice person at all. He's a selfish person. We saw that with his messages to John GF. He's a drama queen. He's histrionic. He's jealous. And he took it all out on Preston. At the end of the day, he's got this weird relationship with John GF. Well, I think we've all had toxic relationships. I wouldn't hold my hand up and say a brilliant relationship. But Preston was like stressful in the middle of it. And they wiped that smile off that baby's face, didn't they? In 4 months. Long did it. Beautiful, happy, bouncing, healthy little boy that anyone would have loved to have adopted, would love to give a cuddle, would love to look after. And they wiped the smile off his face just within a matter of weeks, really. Terrible. There's something wrong with these social workers, I think. You know, they're crap. Why are they so crap? So that's the other thing I think that's got to be. All social workers can't be rubbish, can they? I mean, I know social workers, and they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very professional, very sort of. So must be there's some problem there in Oldham. I don't know. Okay, so I'll be back later for the video for Preston. Thank you for caring about Preston. As always, leave me your comments. Don't forget to put your DNA on the subscribe button and the share button and the like button and the notification. Thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.